Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business from Hong Kong is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Thank you, listeners. You're tuning in to episode 1 of Global from Asia. It's been about 1 week, and I'm back here in Shenzhen, and it was an exciting, amazing time at DCBKK over in Bangkok. Dan and Ian from Tropical MBA have inspired this podcast of mine to get started. So what is Global from Asia? It's not about offshore companies and tax evasion. The purpose is building an international and global business from Asia, specifically in Hong Kong. The first episode here, I thought we'd first start with my story and how I got over here in China and Asia and started my global business. The year was 2007, and I was 4 years into starting selling online on e-commerce, and I was really frustrated trying to buy from Chinese factories. I had already quit my job, and I was living in San Diego at my friend's apartment, read the 4-Hour Work Week, and was really trying to build a whole global business. I saw that Canton Fair and the Global Sources Fair was coming up in the fall of 2007, and I took a flight out for 1 month, coming into Hong Kong through Shenzhen, Shanghai, Beijing, and then back to the U.S. Landing in Hong Kong, I was really overwhelmed. I was not at all expecting the developed country and places I had seen. You know, from what I had learned in America, I thought America was the biggest country in the world, and everyone else was really trying to catch up. I was going to these trade fairs, and I was thinking of, I was already having trouble trying to buy from my U.S. company, trying to buy from these Chinese companies and Hong Kong-based companies. Just bank payments alone, I would have to go downstairs to Bank of America, get a paper receipt, scan it, and send it. Right, where I started learning from these factories, I could just pay from HSBC Hong Kong, and I started learning all these different ways of, keeping funds in a Hong Kong bank account and being able to pay companies, multiple factories. Because, when you're buying from overseas, usually you're not buying from one company unless they're usually a trading company and you're paying a pretty high fee on top of your normal fee. So I started to learn about all of these different things, and then later in 2007, after I was back in America with Christmas, I decided to take a flight back, maybe 6 more months into living here in China. I went to Shenzhen, right across from Hong Kong. Actually, honestly, I'll be a little bit honest, I didn't first think I needed a Hong Kong company. I thought I could maybe save money and open up a Chinese company. No idea what I was doing. I couldn't find anything online. And I started asking different expats and businessmen in Shenzhen and in Hong Kong, and I was getting all different kinds of feedback. And what I ended up learning from a lawyer that I paid a lot of money to was I should open a Hong Kong company first, and then from there I could open up a Chinese company and other companies all over Asia or all over the world as a Hong Kong parent company. So that's one thing, I just want to explain to everybody, it does sound overwhelming, and some people think maybe you got to shut down your U.S. company or your home country company. What I would suggest is, for those that don't know what B2B or B2C is, B2B is when you're selling to other businesses or doing like trading or wholesale, and B2C is where you're selling to your direct client or end customer or retail. So for me, I was selling B2C from a U.S. company, and then when I came over, I opened up, I call it a B2B trading company in Hong Kong. Even though I was living in China, I didn't shut down my U.S. company. I still kept it operating as is, but it just gave me more flexibility having a Hong Kong company where I could, wire transfer more money than needed for one factor and just keep extra funds in a Hong Kong account for quicker payments, just-in-time payments to different factories and companies in Asia. So, I know people get really confused. Do I need to keep my home country? Do I have a U.S. company? Do I have a BVI company? Do I have a Philippine company? I would just say if you're already doing business now and you have a company in your home country, don't get concerned about having to shut it down and move everything over to a Hong Kong or Asia-based company. You still should keep that operating. Just like life and in business, it's just an evolving process. So now that we have that straight, what I did is like I just recommended, I kept my U.S. company open, but I tried to have more and more activity in this new Hong Kong company. So for those of you listening, I'm not sure if you're planning to do B2B or B2C, but I'm going to just talk about how I did it with a B2B company. So once I had my bank account open, of course you got to get money into that bank account, right? The easy way is send money either from your other company or your personal funding to fund it. But I like to try to get customers to put money in my bank account, as hopefully you guys do. So I was sending out quotations for different products. I was doing import, export, and sourcing, right? So I was sending out quotes, and I finally got a customer to pay my 30% deposit to get some manufacturing done. And this is where the benefits again I thought of having a Hong Kong company over using my U.S. company was. I sent him my bank transfer details, and then he had sent me the money, and very quickly it did settle into my account. And I can log in online, and I could send a wire from the online banking, HSBC. We'll have other episodes talking all about banking and merchant accounts. I'm just kind of giving an overview today. So I had the money in there, and then the factory, I control the flow of money much more easily. And from Hong Kong to China, the bank transfer took only about a day, sometimes even the same day. But usually it was overnight. They would have the money in their bank account. I could keep extra proceeds in my Hong Kong account. And sometimes it would be 50% down, but I would pay 30% to the factory, so I could keep a 20% spread. Other benefits like this. And then later, I was actually paying into different countries. I started buying from Thailand, started buying from India. I was buying from all over the place. And one of the negatives or the drawback of my experiences dealing with a U.S. company and U.S. bank accounts was the high transfer fees. And it's been a few years since I've sent a transfer from the U.S., but there wasn't really any online transfer options from many of the banks that I could find. And here with HSBC, I could transfer online for about $13 US fee to countries all over the world. I later was paying people even in Europe. The bank transfers is just extremely fast, and you'd have an online confirmation number to send them within a minute of transferring. So I would email that right away, and then also send them a receipt of payment from their invoices. So you just have much more control about your payments. As I grew my business and I started getting more comfortable doing international business from Hong Kong, I was starting to do business in the Philippines. And I think a lot of people know there's one of the better areas to have English speaking support, customer service. And I started in Manila. Honestly, I was also thinking I had to have a company based in the Philippines if I was going to be there and having workers. But I've learned a lot in business is to kind of go step by step. So in the Philippines, I ended up not opening a company. It looked very, very complicated. It looked very, very expensive. And, it's a little bit risky not to operate a company in a country where you're planning to have staff or receive money. And maybe I'm going to get in trouble for even talking about this on the radio. But what I had ended up doing was I had money going into Hong Kong for my customer projects. I was doing SEO at that time. And what happened was money go to a HSBC Hong Kong account. And then I would have the manager in the Philippines invoice the Hong Kong company. And the money would go into the manager's bank account. Technically, it was my accountant or my cashier. And then that cashier was responsible for paying out the office rent and the staff. Again, this is a little bit risky depending on your risk tolerance, but in the Philippines, I was a very small company, home office, and a lot of times they're working from home and flexible working. Now with these online working platforms, maybe doesn't even need to send money internationally. You could just pay online through credit cards. But at that time, I was just thinking that they didn't want to have an online bank account and it went through one person and went out to many. So this is just another benefit. Again, you could use a U.S. company for this, but again, it was only maybe like $500, $1,000 U.S. a month. And the bank transfer fees when I was paying Bank of America is $45. For HSBC was $13. So for me, I didn't have to risk sending higher amounts to the Philippines or other countries. I kept the majority of my money in Hong Kong, and I was sending money to China, to India, to Philippines, to Netherlands, all over the world, and I was keeping the majority of my money in Hong Kong. This is just, again, another example of some of the benefits of running a Hong Kong company while you're offshore traveling as an international businessman. So now that, to give you some examples, I started getting a little bit even better, and what I started to learn was Chinese companies sometimes even had HSBC Hong Kong bank accounts, and Chinese factories are learning that it's also easier for them to, do business through Hong Kong rather than from China. So a really amazing thing about business is in Hong Kong is you can pay the HSBC same-day transfer, no fee, from one bank to another. So basically most everybody that has a Hong Kong company has a HSBC account, and money can transfer between your account to their account in the same day. So I was paying companies same-day transfer. They would get the money, and business was done right away. It was like confirmation. They would check their account. They would see the money was done. That's just another amazing benefit for me and others doing business in Hong Kong. And then being a typical American, I hadn't really done much business outside of America. I remember when I saw multi-currency bank accounts, it felt really international, and it is pretty amazing. I have euros and dollars and Hong Kong dollars and other currencies. I've had Swiss franc in my HSBC accounts, so receiving money in other currencies is not a problem. It stays in that currency when it's deposited into your bank account, and you can send that out, or you can convert that real time in your account for a nominal fee. I was always, checking that and transferring online. When somebody wanted Hong Kong dollar, pay them Hong Kong dollars, convert my US dollars, euros, etc. It's never a problem, and it just becomes part of doing business. Another big bonus is Hong Kong has a lot of British influence, and the legal system there is amazing. So whenever I write contracts, both personal or between contractors or companies, I always put it under Hong Kong law and Hong Kong legal system, and that just makes things much more clear. And again, if you have other companies that you're dealing with, hopefully they also have a Hong Kong company. So you can have a contract between a Hong Kong company to another Hong Kong company under Hong Kong law as a contract. That is just makes things feel a lot safer. And luckily for me, I haven't had to go to court for any of these issues. But I think both sides just know that it's legit, and that if you're using a Hong Kong company under Hong Kong law, you can't really get too sneaky and get away with much. I mean, it's really airtight when you're dealing with another Hong Kong company with a Hong Kong governing law. Okay, guys, so I might have kind of confused the hell out of you. So let me just kind of go through the scenario here. Well, again, this is just our first episode, and I'm going to expand on every single point here. But just to give you an overview, so you're maybe thinking, sitting here listening to this podcast, thinking, okay, what do I do next? I have a U.S. company, or I'm a Brazilian and I live in Brazil, and I have a Brazilian company. So I think if you're serious about doing business in Asia or globally and trying to make this move, don't shut down that company. Don't really even interrupt the operations there, but look seriously into opening a Hong Kong company, taking a trip out to Asia, getting it done. After that, funding the account either with money that you have or money from customers. So let's say you're making sales in a U.S. company selling on e-commerce or even maybe Kickstarter or something. You get funding. Then you're going to have to go and buy that stuff from Asia. And maybe you have multiple suppliers to buy from. But again, now that you have this Hong Kong company, it makes life a lot more simple. You can send money, the full balance of maybe all your purchases you want to do in Asia, to that Hong Kong company in one shot, and then you can sprinkle money to different suppliers. So if you want to pay a company in China or Hong Kong or Taiwan, drop little bits of money to all of them for like the 30% deposit or 50% deposit. You usually don't want to pay them all up front, right? Just like a normal B2B transaction, and then you can control that cash flow, writing a contract to them from your Hong Kong company to hopefully their Hong Kong company. And then as you grow your business, hopefully you'll get customers from Europe or other countries, South America, Asia, Russia, and they're going to want to buy products from you. And I know one issue that I had when I was in the US, when I was trying to get guys to buy from me to China, I know that they felt a little bit strange paying a U.S. company when they had to go to a Chinese company. When you have a Hong Kong company, you just seem much more legit to do international business with companies anywhere in the world. As an American company, when I was doing some import-export and I was doing e-commerce, they wanted to buy 1,000 pieces from me, and if I invoiced them from my U.S. company, it just felt like I was a middleman, right? If I had a Hong Kong company, then I must be more direct. I must be in the factory, have much more connections, and I'm much more serious. So, that's just another big bonus that you got to think about, It's a global business out there, and if you're doing business in Asia and you're invoicing from the U.S., and then you got to get money, wait a few days for it to get deposited, and then you got to transfer it over for a couple more days to get to China. That's just like a lot of extra time. And then bigger buyers in Europe or in Asia or in South America or other parts of the world, we are a global economy now. They're going to start thinking that you're not serious, you don't know international business, and it's just faster. They're going to maybe try to find your factory directly, or they're going to try to do business around you. So just by being in Hong Kong, you just take it much more seriously in the international landscape. That's just another big bonus that you got to keep in mind as well. And now for a socialagent.me update. For those of you who don't know, I'm co-founder CEO of a startup called Social Agent. It's a marketplace to connect companies to sales agents to help generate more business leads for their company. It's been a project I've been working on for over a year now. I went through an accelerator in China, and we're making really good traction at the moment. And I'd just like to offer everyone on the call access to a free webinar that we're going to be hosting on a regular basis. If you could just check out www.socialagent.me/webinar and find a time that's suitable for you. It'll be a live webinar with me, and you can ask questions and interact with me and the other audience members and understand more about how your company can generate more leads, or for those agents out there that want to get some extra cash, can turn some of their contacts into cash. So that's it today. Thanks everybody for listening. Again, just like everything in my life, I live off feedback, and this is my first podcast, and I would just love any positive, negative, constructive feedback that you can give me on my new podcast website, www.globalfromasia.com. You can send me an email directly at mike@socialagent.me. And I'm really excited to keep going. I'm going to try to do this weekly, and maybe even more. I'll get a lot of different people interview lines up, both in Hong Kong, in China, in Asia, or even overseas in America or in Europe, that are using Hong Kong businesses to run a global business. If you know anybody that's interested to be a guest, I would be more than happy to talk to them. It's been 6 years now doing business myself here, and I have quite a good lineup of different guests, and I won't bore you so much with just my voice coming in the future. But, anything at all, I hope to help you guys grow your online businesses globally. Thank you.